Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Barron's Christian and Giles coming to you on Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020. It is a beautiful day here on Cape Cod. After some morning showers this morning, it is not unbearably humid, only very humid. So today I am continuing my Top Influencers series with yet another individual who has influenced my perspective and who I have become as a person. And some of you who have been following this sub-series might start to wonder, Barron, how many top influencers do you have? You've already recorded 11 episodes of Top Influencers. When are you going to stop? And I think what I'm going to do is cap it at 20 top influencers. I think that's a pretty reasonable number considering the length of time that I've been alive, the education that I have had, and the travels and other experiences that I have enjoyed. So look for me to cap this series at about 20 top influencers. Today is number 12, so I'm getting closer to the end for those of you who find this interesting but are already wondering what comes next. So today I am venturing into the world of academia and higher education to present to you Dr. Jason Scorse of the Middlebury Institute of International Studies located in Monterey, California. Now, I had the great pleasure of being one of Dr. Scorse's students when I attended Middlebury Institute as a graduate student between the years of 2009 and 2011. Dr. Scorse is an economist by training, and he got his doctorate from UC Berkeley in 2005. And yes, I did have to look some of this up because I didn't remember all the exact details. His areas of research interests and knowledge include environmental economics and policy, behavioral economics, and international development. When I was a student at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies, I took the course entitled Environmental and Natural Resource Economics offered by Dr. Scorse. Now, sadly enough, this was actually really one of my very first courses in economics. I was a graduate student, and despite all of the education that I had previously had, which included another graduate degree, this was the first time that I actually took an economics course. And for those of you out there who have encoded it in your brain that economics is the, quote, dismal science, yes, I can understand why some people make the argument that that is truly what this science is. I walked into this course, I would say fairly neutral about the field of economics as far as how enthusiastic I was and as far as how much I thought it was a discipline that really had a lot of meaningful things to say. And I would guess that that attitude was partly a result of my past history, my earlier life experience, going all the way back to college, when I attended Texas A&M University and studied atmospheric science. Now, as an earth scientist, I was not required to engage in any substantial economics education, so I pretty much did not delve into economics in any great detail until I was attending graduate school at the Middlebury Institute in Monterey, California. So, what got me interested in the subject matter was in part Dr. Scorse's manner of teaching. I found him to be a very accessible, easy person to speak with, and I didn't experience him to be one of these professors that is sometimes thought to live or work out of an ivory tower. I do believe that natural resource economics is a very important field to study, having studied some in this one class, and I have a much better sense of how to understand the world and some of the major policy problems in the world, given the fact that I took this course. So I highly recommend you to check out Dr. Scorse's profile. I will provide that link in the About box for this episode that you see now on the screen, hopefully, of your computer or your smartphone that you are watching this episode from. Dr. Scorse has been affiliated with the Middlebury Institute for a number of years, and in 2011 he became director of something called the Center for the Blue Economy. Dr. Scorse in more recent years has focused on coastal economics, so coastal and ocean issues and how those relate to the field of economics. And the Center for the Blue Economy was started with the purpose of providing leadership in research, education, and analysis to promote a sustainable ocean and coastal economy. So if you're looking for good data and for some really fascinating research, I highly recommend that you get to learn more about Dr. Scorse and the Center for the Blue Economy in Monterey, California. So, as far as the actual content of the course that I took, it was, I would say, pretty standard introductory level material for a natural resources economics class. And it didn't require an extensive amount of quantitative skills necessarily, although economics obviously does trade in numbers, so yes, we did have to have a certain level of mathematical ability. What I enjoyed about the course was the thought-provoking questions and the different topics that we pursued throughout the time of the course. And one particular class that stands out to me is a class where Dr. Scorse basically had us contemplate the policy implications of the management of a certain resource, both within the borders of a country that holds this resource, as well as outside of those borders. And specifically what we looked at in this one class exercise was the Amazon and the tropical rainforests within the country of Brazil. And the reason this issue is so important is because the natural resources of the planet are, in a sense, something that we should all take an interest in, even if they are not within our borders, because how other countries use those resources can ultimately impact us in countries downwind or even on other continents. I'll give you a couple of examples so you can understand why economics is important. One particular convention, United Nations treaty, that I learned about while studying at the Middlebury Institute in a different class was something called CITES. And CITES stands for the Convention on the International Trade of Endangered Species. Now, for those of you who have a subscription to National Geographic, or who have traveled extensively, or who had a family member who loves to go hunting, you probably are aware of the fact that there are certain animal products in this world that are highly coveted and thus, because they are in high demand, very expensive items. They can net you a lot of money if you can come by them. Some examples in the past of animals that have been targeted for their particular products that they provide are the tusks, the ivory tusks of elephants, for example. There are also certain types of species of fish in the ocean that are considered a delicacy or something very special to eat in certain cultures. Another issue that has been in the news in some of the more recent years in the marine policy community, for example, has been the issue of shark fins and the delicacy of shark fins and things like shark fin soup that are consumed by some of the peoples in Asia. So, endangered species and animal products are one policy issue that can be of great interest to the field of economics when you're looking at supply and demand and how different activities, both legal and illegal, may contribute to the supply as well as the demand for these products, as well as how they are shipped across borders. And as an aside, this particular issue of endangered species of both flora and fauna has been receiving some renewed interest since the time of the coronavirus pandemic beginning, because there is concern, for good reason, that the trafficking or trading of products across international borders could be a source of contagion if certain products, animals, plants, or both, contain things like viruses that we don't necessarily have good materials to combat. So, animals and plants and the harvesting and trading and sharing of them across borders is of concern and is, I think, in my opinion, an interesting topic to look at within the field of economics. Now, in regards to the activity that we did in this one class, we were, like I said, looking at the Amazon rainforest. And so another major product that many of us throughout the world, most everyone obviously, relies upon is wood and paper products. The things that we can harvest from trees. But trees do much more than just provide us with products like the paper that we write on, the wood that we use to build the frames for our beds and our furniture and for the flooring in our homes. The forests of this world also provide the vital service of holding carbon within themselves rather than having it be in our atmosphere. And so the forests of the world are a vital key, a vital piece of the carbon cycle within planet Earth. And therefore, because they are, the management of this resource, the management of our forests, is a concern not just to those of us who might be living right next to one, but is also a concern for anyone who is interested in the stability of the world climate, which I would say should be everyone. So in this activity, we were invited to consider how the management of the Amazon rainforest might be influenced by local policy needs and interests, needs at the national level within the state, the nation state of Brazil, and then within the entire world. And what we saw in this exercise, what I saw, is that it's not uncommon for a common resource, something that is of interest to all of us, to be managed very differently in accordance with the proximity of the resource and the needs of the local communities closest to it versus the needs of communities far, far away in countries on the other side of the world. And so, for example, in Brazil and in other tropical regions of the world with nation states that possess these forests, that have them within their borders, it's not uncommon for us to see questions about what is the best way to use the land available in these countries. Are the forests, in a sense, worth more standing, or are they worth more being deforested, chopped down, and having the land transformed into a different basically type of space for other human activities in its place? So, is a forest the best use of a plot of land, or due to the demand of consumers and the economy of nearby communities, is it suddenly actually theoretically more valuable as a parking lot for a new strip mall, or as an agricultural plot of land where you can cultivate a variety of products? So the needs of the local communities might differ vastly from the needs of people who do not live within their borders and who are not citizens of these countries. So while the local communities might decide that it is in their interests to deforest these regions and transform them into agriculture, because agricultural purposes, because perhaps they can grow crops that they then feed to cattle to support the meat industry in the world, they might make choices regarding the management of their lands that, while it makes sense for them and benefits them in the short term and helps them create greater wealth to lift themselves out of a poverty, out of a impoverished state of quality of life, if you look at this particular natural resource management issue from another level, from the level of the state, like the state of Brazil, or from the world, it could very well be true that it would be better for a larger collection of humans, namely all of the people of Brazil or the entire world, if the forest is left alone or perhaps managed in a slightly different way than if the forest was only managed by policy that is only prepared, that is only formulated by the local people and communities closest to the resource, in this case, forests. And so through this activity, what Dr. Scorse was, in a sense, inviting us students to do is to contemplate and understand how policy problems can arise in many different ways, including the challenge of managing common resources in accordance with different types of needs and different types of imperatives that are themselves driven by the circumstances of people at different levels of organization. What I mean by that is like different levels of government entities. So is it a local community? Is it a state, nation-state level that we're looking at regarding the management of a resource? Or are we looking at the entire planet and what is best for humanity as an entire whole regarding the management of resources that are definitely finite and are not found throughout the whole world? And one of the particular concerns about tropical rainforests and their management and sustaining them as compared to temperate latitude forests is the fact that there is an immense amount of biodiversity within the forests within the tropical belt of the world. And that biodiversity is in itself attributable to a number of things. One, obviously, being the very different climate. It stands to reason that there are many more things that can adapt and live in a temperate or warm environment as compared to one that has a seasonal period of time in which the Earth is cold, in which the atmosphere is below freezing, and thus in which water is either in a solid form, either as ice or as snow. So, this activity was, I thought, a very fascinating activity, and it was a great activity to practice critical thinking skills and to really appreciate how public policy development and implementation can often be a very challenging endeavor, especially when you are trying to meet the needs of diverse populations of people whose interests fundamentally sometimes clash due to the nature of their circumstances. So, I enjoyed this course, like I said, and like I also said, found Dr. Scorse's way of teaching the class and the actual topics that we pursued I found to be of great interest. Dr. Scorse is a very passionate person when it comes to the natural resource economics of the present day, and I especially enjoyed the class also because I understood the pressing policy problems of the 21st century through a different lens than what I had previously understood them through. Prior to taking this economics course, for example, I had understood the issue of climate change mostly as an atmospheric scientist, which was my original training. So I understood the science of the issue of climate change more than I understood the economics that drive some of the problems that are contributing to climate change, as in this example I shared with you, deforestation and how that can change the carbon cycle and therefore change the balance of gases in our atmosphere, which then impacts the heat trapping capacity of the atmosphere, which then manifests as altered weather patterns and altered long-term climate. So, I highly recommend any of you who are economists by training or who are considering the Middlebury Institute of International Studies for a graduate program to check out the profile of Dr. Jason Scorse. He is a great guy. He has also done his own writing beyond his thesis work as a doctoral student. He has a great book about natural resource economics. I highly encourage you to check that out. The title for that book and some of his other resources that he is involved in is also in the About box of this YouTube video. So I welcome you to check out those resources. And Dr. Scorse, I hope you're going to watch this video. If you do, thank you for all of the time and energy you provided to me as a student, and the enthusiasm, the post-graduation chats, and your confidence in me as a student. I continue to look at the world through the lens of economics as best as I can, and I appreciate everything that you do as a professor and as an American citizen. So, that is my top influencer for today, my 12th one in the series, Dr. Jason Scorse of the Middlebury Institute of International Studies. And this has been a shorter episode than usual, so congratulations to me for becoming more concise. You all have a great day. Thank you again for watching. Please tell your friends, family, colleagues, and pets about me. I think even some cats and dogs could find me remotely entertaining on some days. So until the next episode, this is Bernd Christian Giel signing off and wishing all of you a most lovely July day. Cheers.